Firstly, I would like to thank all those involved in organizing the conference for this opportunity and for the excellent and continuous updates. Why stay? Saudi women's adaptation to violence. Introduction. Violence against women. Why women stay in violent relationships. Despite the reasonable number of studies that have been conducted on family violence, both locally and worldwide, more data are needed to understand why women remain with violent husbands and when or how women cope with violence. Most Arabic studies on violence against women focus on the type and nature of the violence, the extent and severity of the abuse, and attitudes toward family violence. But the factors and reasons that cause abused women to stay with the abuser and maintain the relationship haven't been thoroughly explored and investigated. The current study intends to take the investigation of violence against women in research community to a new level by focusing on the reasons that compel women to cope with the abuse rather than why women are abused, or the types or severity of abuse that they experience. Study objective. This study seeks to identify the factors that influence women to stay in violent marriages by determining the relationship between these factors, and a number of variables include occupational status, education level, total number of children in the family, marriage duration, wife's natal family's social status, frequency of violence against the wife. Hypothesis. The abused wife's occupational status, employed or unemployed, has a statistically significant impact on the degree of coping with marital violence, elements, and degree in the study sample. The abused wife's educational level can neither read nor write, secondary or less, bachelor degree or more, has a statistically significant impact on the degree of coping with marital violence, elements, and degree in the study sample. The abused wife's total number of children, no children, fewer than 3, from 3 to 5, more than 5, has a statistically significant impact on the degree of coping with marital violence, elements, and degree in the study sample. The duration of the abused wife's marriage, less than 5 years, between 5 and 10 years, more than 10 years, has a statistically significant impact on the degree of coping with marital violence, elements, and degree in the study sample. The abused wife's natal family status, high, middle, low, has a statistically significant impact on the degree of adaptation to spousal violence, elements, and degree in the study sample. The frequency of the violent incidents experienced by the abused wife, several incidents daily, almost daily, at least once a week, at least once a month, at least once a year, rarely, has a statistically significant impact on the degree of coping with marital violence, elements, and degree in the study sample. Methodology. The study employed a descriptive methodology because such an approach can be used to explore the differences within the sample and the associations among the variables. Data collection. Questionnaire contains a number of closed questions about variables that presumably impact women's ability to cope with marital violence. Marital violence coping scale designed by researchers. The scale consists of 48 items that are distributed across the 6 dimensions, with 8 items in each dimension. Population and sample. Participants were recruited using snowball sampling, a non-random sampling method due to the lack of sampling framework. The sample was composed of 114 abused women. Scale validity and reliability. The researchers calculated the Cronbach's alpha for the total sample and each subdimension. the results indicating that the scale's dimensions are connected to its total degree and, thus, the accuracy of the scale. Study variables. Independent variables. Occupational status, educational level, total number of children in the family, marriage duration, wife's natal family's social status, and frequency of violence. Dependent variables. Coping with marital violence, wife's personal characteristics, divorce and child custody proceedings, child care, lack of family support, economic dependence and type of violence. Statistical methods. These statistical analyses were performed using the numerous statistical tests were conducted to achieve the study's objectives, specifically frequencies and percentages, a Pearson correlation, t-test, an analysis of variance, ANOVA, and a Schaaf's test. Conclusion. The impact of the wife's occupational status on personal characteristics, caring for children, lack of family support, economic dependence on husband, and marital violence, coping total score was greater for wives who did not work. The impact of the wife's educational level on lack of family support, economic dependence on the husband, and the marital violence coping total score was greater for wives who attained a secondary education or less. The impact of the total number of children in the family on divorce and child custody and caring for children was greater for wives who had more children. The impact of marriage duration on caring for children was greater for wives who had been married longer. The impact of the wife's natal family status on personal characteristics and type of violence was greater for wives from low-class families. The impact of violence frequency on a wife's personal characteristics, child custody, absence of family support, type of violence, and marital violence coping total score was greater for wives subjected to frequent violence. Finally, the reasons that compel abused women to remain in or leave a violent marriage are numerous and complex. Moreover, the data are conflicting and non-conclusive in most studies. Nonetheless, economic dependence on the husband is crucial to a woman's decision to stay in or leave the marriage and is the decisive factor in coping with violence. Some women may stay in troubled marriages because they were raised to believe that different rules and expectations exist for men and women. In some cultures, for example, violence is a trait of manhood, and male violence isn't punishable. Some women believe they must exhibit traits of sacrifice, tolerance, and obedience. Therefore, they cope with an abusive marriage to preserve their dignity, which would be violated if they revealed the secrets of their personal and family lives. Thank you so much for listening.